while using his other hand to swiftly unbuckle his belt pants before pulling out his erect, bare-skinned penis, which was the length and girth of a Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, you heard that right. Ain't no way Diddy and his lawyers were ready for this kind of smoke. In the middle of all the chaos already surrounding this case, one of Diddy's alleged victims just dropped a graphic new detail, saying his manhood looked like a Tootsie Roll. But that wasn't even the wildest part. She revealed even more disturbing details that left the courtroom stunned. Let's get into it.
In the midst of one of the most explosive celebrity trials in recent history, a single moment of testimony stopped the courtroom cold and sent shockwaves across the internet. One of Sean Diddy Combs' accusers, known in court documents as Jane Doe, took the stand and delivered a disturbing, graphic account of an alleged assault that took place in 2001. One that included a detail so specific, so bizarre, it instantly went viral. According to reports, Jane Doe claimed that during the incident at Diddy's Manhattan apartment, after he allegedly locked her in his bedroom, pushed her onto the bed, and placed his hand around her throat, she noticed his genitals resembled the size and shape of a large Tootsie Roll. She reportedly felt a brief moment of relief, thinking the experience might be less physically painful due to his size, but what followed was deeply traumatic. She testified that Diddy ignored her screams and violated her despite her clear refusal. The courtroom was visibly shaken, and Diddy's legal team appeared blindsided by the unusually humiliating detail. Online, the public response was immediate and ruthless, with memes circulating rapidly and commentators dubbing the moment Tootsie Roll Gate. Some even mockingly labeled him Itty Bitty Diddy, a nickname that instantly trended and symbolized the turning tide against the music mogul. While some dismissed the comparison as unnecessary or salacious, legal experts argued that such vivid, embarrassing details often lend credibility to testimony, particularly in cases involving power dynamics and abuse. As shocking as it was, this testimony is only a sliver of a much darker narrative, one that includes over 60 lawsuits alleging sexual assault, coercion, and a calculated system of abuse spanning decades. And with more accusers, including Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura expected to testify, the trial is quickly becoming a disturbing portrait of unchecked celebrity power and the long overdue reckoning that's finally arrived. So what's next for Diddy and his defense team? Honestly, it's hard to say. But one thing is clear. They're staring down an uphill battle. The walls are closing in. The evidence is dense and ugly, not just in quantity, but in the disturbing precision of the stories told. The witnesses aren't just names on a list anymore. They're real people with chillingly similar accounts. And the allegations? They stretch across decades, cities, and generations of the music industry. These aren't one-off stories or tabloid fodder anymore. These are layered, corroborated, and devastating accounts of abuse, manipulation, coercion, and control. The defense is holding the line on the idea that everything was consensual, that these were just wild parties, mutual decisions, blurred lines. But that defense grows weaker with every quiet, tear-filled testimony and every time-stamped piece of footage. It might have worked in another era, in another court, with less surveillance and fewer survivors willing to speak. But not now. Not in 2025. Not when a pregnant Cassie Ventura walks into a courtroom with composure, recounting years of alleged trauma in chilling clinical detail. Her story now punctuated by that now infamous hotel hallway surveillance video. And here's the thing. Her testimony is just one piece. But it's the anchor. It sets the tone. It makes the unimaginable real. And from there, everything else the prosecution introduces just builds on that foundation. How does the defense even begin to poke holes in that without alienating the jury? They can't. They know that. That's why some insiders believe they won't even try. They might let her testify without cross-examination, just absorb the blow and move on. Not because they think it's right, but because there's no good way to go toe-to-toe with a woman whose story is already being backed up by digital receipts, and a cultural shift that's fed up with powerful men getting away with it. So maybe they go procedural, file motions about racial bias, complain about the leaks to the press, argue that the case is tainted by media attention or old accusations that were never proven in court. But that's like throwing water at a forest. Fire. The public's not buying it. And increasingly, neither is the court. This case isn't being tried in the court of public opinion anymore. It's real now. federal, criminal. And it's not just about Diddy the Mogul, it's about what he represents. The machine, the myth, the idea that if you're rich enough, famous enough, and smart enough, you can make anything go away. But not this time. Because here's what's different. The accusations are grotesquely consistent. The details are too oddly specific. That Tootsie Roll testimony, as strange and uncomfortable as it was, is the kind of surreal, visceral anecdote juries remember forever. You don't make that up. You don't fake that kind of memory. That's the kind of thing that sticks in a juror's head when they go back to deliberate. And suddenly, the glossy image of Sean Diddy Combs, the mogul, the brand, the icon, starts to crack. Zoom out, and the picture is even more damning. The lawsuits, the settlements, the whispered rumors that have followed him for years, always just out of reach of consequence. The people who disappeared, the collaborators who distanced themselves, the artists whose careers mysteriously stalled. Now those puzzle pieces are falling into place. You realize this isn't about one incident or one victim. This is a pattern, a system, a culture of fear and loyalty and silence that kept the machine running while the world danced to Bad Boy for Life. And now, the music stopped. The empire is trembling. The legacy he spent 3 decades building is in free fall. Even if Diddy walks out of this courtroom a free man, his name will never recover. Not fully. The brand is tainted. The nostalgia is broken. You can't listen to the old hits the same way anymore, not without hearing the echoes of the people left in their wake. The trial is still ongoing. The outcome is uncertain. But the truth is already writing itself in bold, brutal letters. This is the reckoning of Sean Combs. And whether the industry wants to admit it or not, it was long overdue. Prosecutors claimed that members of Combs' inner circle, including bodyguards, assistants, and even employees of his businesses, played active roles in coordinating and facilitating these freak-offs. These weren't casual or consensual adult encounters. According to the indictment, these events were premeditated productions designed to exploit, control, and humiliate the participants, typically young women who had been groomed into submission, intoxicated, or threatened into compliance. The I-word language used by the prosecution paints a chilling portrait of a man who didn't just enjoy power, but who industrialized it, transforming his influence in the entertainment world into a machinery of manipulation. Former staff members have begun to speak out too, corroborating these accounts. One former assistant, speaking under the condition of anonymity, described how invitations to private parties often meant transporting women to one of Diddy's properties and ensuring they were camera-ready, a term she now understands referred to more than just makeup and wardrobe. She recalled preparing rooms with specific lighting, black satin sheets, and go bags containing lingerie, baby oil, and narcotics. It was like working on a set, she said, except we didn't know what was being filmed until later. Some of us suspected, but when you work for someone with that much money and power, you don't ask questions. The prosecution is now arguing that this consistent staging, use of recording equipment, and the repetitive involvement of vulnerable women, many of whom were aspiring artists or dependents of Diddy's financial power, amounts to a pattern of coercive sex trafficking. Legal experts are watching closely, noting that if it can be proven Diddy recorded and distributed any of these videos without consent, or used them as blackmail tools, federal charges could quickly escalate to include violations of the Mann Act or even child exploitation statutes, depending on the ages of the victims in older footage. Federal investigators are reportedly combing through terabytes of digital content seized from Combs' multiple estates. Forensic teams are working to recover deleted files and identify the individuals in each video. Sources close to the investigation say they have already found partial video logs that suggest detailed archiving, dates, participant pseudonyms, and even coded ratings based on performance. If authenticated, these files could provide the blueprint for a prosecution akin to the downfall of Harvey Weinstein, but with the added horror of surveillance and sexual blackmail baked into the infrastructure of Diddy's empire, adding to the sinister picture. Some of these women have told prosecutors they had no idea they were being recorded, which would violate multiple state and federal wiretapping and consent laws. Others say they were told they had to perform or risk losing their homes, allowances, or even facing physical retaliation. It wasn't just about sex, one survivor said through her attorney. It was about breaking you down, making you feel like nothing, and then recording that moment to hold over you forever. What started as whispered rumors in the music industry, passed around in green rooms, ignored by executives, has now become an avalanche of evidence and testimony, sweeping away the myth of brother love and exposing what may be one of the most methodical abuse enterprises the entertainment world has ever seen. The trial is not just about what happened behind closed doors. It's about how long people were willing to look the other way. It's about an entire ecosystem built to protect one man's perversions, even if it meant destroying dozens of lives in the process. And this may just be the beginning. Prosecutors have already indicated that several high-profile figures from the entertainment industry could be subpoenaed next, either as witnesses or as alleged participants. With each new day, the courtroom testimony inches closer to not just convicting Sean "Diddy" Combs, but exposing a larger web of complicity that spans record labels, talent agencies, security firms, and even media outlets. The full truth, it seems, is still unraveling, and the final cut of this real-life horror film is far from finished. Diddy's team allegedly played a key role in organizing these disturbing events, handling everything from booking hotel rooms to stocking them with supplies such as various substances, baby oil, and extra linens. They also coordinated travel arrangements for everyone involved and even scheduled IV fluid treatments afterward. Yes, you read that correctly. IV fluids. These sessions were reportedly so physically demanding that participants needed medical intervention to recover. That's not just outrageous. It's downright nightmarish. If you're thinking, this can't be real, consider this. When federal authorities raided Diddy's properties in Miami and Los Angeles back in March, they seized over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. 1,000 bottles, no typo there. Imagine going to Costco and buying that amount, except this wasn't for everyday use. It was for something sinister. Even more alarming are the prosecutors' descriptions of how Diddy allegedly forced women to participate in these so-called freak-O's. According to the indictment, when Sean Combs didn't get his way, he resorted to violence, threats, and coercion. Victims were reportedly subjected to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to compel their participation. One of the most shocking allegations came from testimony revealing that during one of these sessions, a male worker was forced to engage in a degrading act involving bodily fluids on a victim. I'm keeping this as PG-13 as possible, but you can read between the lines. They also revealed that Cassie Ventura is expected to testify this week, and what she might say could shake things up. Prosecutors claim Cassie will testify that a male escort was made to perform a sexual act that required him to urinate. Yes, to pee, and he urinated on her. That detail alone is staggering and deeply disturbing. These allegations paint a picture of degradation and humiliation that's almost impossible to grasp. Prosecutors also say they have extensive video evidence to back up their claims. According to a bail letter, they possess dozens of recordings made by the defendant himself, documenting these freak-O's with victims. If that's true, Diddy's legal team is in serious trouble. Video evidence is hard to argue against, much like being caught on a Ring doorbell stealing packages and then denying it. The footage simply doesn't lie. It gets even worse. Prosecutors allege that Diddy sometimes recorded these sessions without the participants' knowledge and then used these videos as blackmail to ensure their ongoing compliance. That's an incredibly manipulative and sinister form of control. The indictment also accuses him of distributing controlled substances, ketamine, GHB, and ecstasy, to victims to keep them obedient and compliant. This isn't partying, this is exploitation on a horrific level with no excuses. One particularly damning piece of evidence is a hotel bill showing that Diddy allegedly paid over $46,000 in damages after one of these freak-O's in 2012 at a penthouse hotel room. $46,000 in damages. That's not just a wild party. That's a total destruction of property. What on earth happened in that room? The most chilling part of the prosecutor's case is their claim that even after Diddy became aware of the criminal investigation in January 2024, he continued to hold these events. Despite the mounting lawsuits, the public scrutiny, and his reputation collapsing, he allegedly persisted with these freak-O's. That's like speeding, getting pulled over, and then flooring the accelerator right in front of the cop. How does that even make sense? Now, some might argue, what if everyone involved consented? What if these were all adult consensual encounters? That appears to be the defense's approach. During opening statements, Diddy's attorney, Tenny Guros, told the court this case concerns Sean Combs' private, personal, intimate life, which she insisted has no connection to his legitimate business operations. She further argued that the prosecution is attempting to criminalize consensual intimate relationships as human trafficking. In January 2025, Diddy's legal team formally requested prosecutors to produce 9 videos referenced in the indictment. They claim these videos will show consensual adult encounters with no evidence of violence, coercion, threats, or trafficking. But, as U.S. Attorney Damon Williams of the Southern District of New York explained, the issue isn't the intimate acts themselves. It's the alleged use of force, threats of force, and coercion to compel participation. That's what makes it illegal. Williams further detailed that Combs was known to hit, kick, throw objects, and drag victims by their hair to force participation. On one occasion in March 2016, this violent conduct was captured on hotel surveillance video and later widely reported in the media. This is a reference to the infamous footage of Diddy physically assaulting Cassie Ventura. What will be especially fascinating to watch is how Diddy's defense handles cross-examination of Cassie. The defense will likely try to portray their relationship as a consensual, swinger-style dynamic spanning several years. However, reconciling this with the fact that Cassie is currently pregnant and already a mother of 2 will make it very delicate to discredit her in front of the jury. It's a difficult line to walk, trying to challenge her credibility without seeming insensitive or aggressive toward a pregnant woman. Cassie is expected to be a key witness, and her testimony about these freak O's could be devastating. For Diddy, TMZ Live reported that Cassie's pregnancy might make it harder for the defense to undermine her statements. Attorneys will have to tread carefully during cross-examination because overt aggression could backfire. The sheer scope and scale of these allegations are staggering and unlike anything seen in a celebrity case in recent memory. Even more shocking is the extensive network of people allegedly involved in facilitating these events. According to the indictment, members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security personnel, household staff, personal assistants, and other employees, helped book hotels, clean up afterward, arrange travel, and deliver cash payments to workers. It's as if Diddy had an entire operation dedicated to these events. This wasn't a one-off bad decision. It was a long-term, systemic pattern involving dozens of people over many years. This is precisely why Diddy is facing racketeering charges, which are typically reserved for organized crime. Prosecutors argue this was no different than a criminal enterprise. If even a fraction of these allegations prove true, Diddy is in serious legal jeopardy. The evidence is mounting, and his defense team appears shaken. This case is unfolding in real time, and it's gripping the public's attention like few celebrity trials have before. If you found this breakdown insightful, feel free to check out the cards on your screen for more updates and analyses.